I hope you enjoyed Sam's short lecture. We will give you an opportunity to email any specific questions you have, and then we will announce the exact date of the webinar. And now I have a really special pleasure to announce our speaker who traveled all the way from Minnesota to be with us. Welcome, dear Bill Voir-Berry from IBM, Watson, and Esports. Great to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there a clicker? Okay. Hello, hello. Good morning, good morning. I'm trying to remember what time zone I'm in right now, so bear with me. Okay, so as Melina indicated, I am the CTO for IBM Esports. I've been in the game space with IBM close to 8 years now, and probably the last 5 of those years have been doing esports, competitive gaming, quite religiously, if you will. So let's start the PowerPoint here, and as it indicates here, it's blockchain and esports are more than just a game. It's serious business. So let's walk through it and go to the next slide and get our introduction here. So if you hit the next slide, it'll kind of show some of the clients that I've been working with for quite some time. Many people don't realize that probably at any given moment, there's probably close to 130 million people a day playing on some sort of IBM system or IBM capacity. So you probably recognize some of these clients that pop up here, and just to give you a sense that, hey, we're not the new kids on the block when it comes to games. So you can advance to the next couple slides, please. Yeah, 130 million. So right now, let me look at this. This is a very important statement. This is kind of the core of what we're looking at today, is that innovators are using cloud and cognitive, right now, technology to transform essential experiences. So this is going to kind of be the theme as I'm talking through our presentation today. So just kind of put this in the back of your head as we're talking about this. So next slide, please. So let's take a look. As was mentioned on the first video, is that we're all vulnerable to a lot of seismic shifts right now. There's a lot of what we call internal threats, a lot of adaptation in business, that if you're, in a sense, asleep at the wheel, you could miss something very important. So what we're looking at here is that 274,000 startups estimated worldwide each day. You're thinking that's probably a mind-boggling number. How do we deal with that? How do we adapt as humans? And how do we deal with the external threats as well, such as digital companies, Uber companies, Airbnb companies, new business models? So if you're talking to like a CSO or an executive from a large enterprise company, they, in a sense, are a bit worried that they will be able to adapt quick enough to all the startups that are coming out on a daily basis. Next slide, please. So here's my chairman CEO. You may have heard the name, Ginny Rometty. She is quite the advanced CEO in the world of technology. And what she said was, what the internet did for communications, blockchain will do for trusted transactions. So one of the things I'll be talking about today, in addition to some of the esports technologies, is how does blockchain work in the world of games as well? You're like thinking, how would that happen? So I'll kind of talk through that today. So next slide. So here I am, just a day in the life of Bill. I'm working with some Halo engineers at a major esports event, helping them bring together some very cool cloud and cognitive on their stream. So this is at a major esports event where you're thinking about 60,000 people are watching a game in some aspect and capturing all the sentiment or all the data that comes in from the gameplay. So if folks are familiar with games like StarCraft II or Dota or League of Legends, one of my favorite players in StarCraft II is Scarlet. So I want to know, what is she doing during her game? What type of activities is she doing? What type of data is coming back from the crowd or the sentiment? So people are tweeting and twitching all the time during a major esports event. And I want to be able to capture that and provide that to either a producer, a TV producer, a streamer, real time, so people can really get into the collaborative community of esports. Next slide. So imagine some of you may have heard of a small little tool we have called Watson in IBM. For those that may not be familiar, a little history is that Watson first went on a Jeopardy TV show back somewhere around 2010 to play some human contestants. And at that time, in the first couple hours, Watson was actually losing big time. And the reason for that is because Watson had to learn how to interact as a human and converse as a human, understand human sentiment. Once Watson understood all that, it kind of took off. It's kind of like a baby, right? You feed a baby, you nourish it, you talk to it. Same thing that happens. So once Watson identified how to ask questions, how to interact on the game, it kind of took off. The rest is history. So in the world of esports, I imagine this, that I want to understand a subscriber's new journey, a new sentiment into the world. Who's playing? Who's watching? Who do I want to have playing? Who do I want to have watching? I want to know a subscriber's personal areas of interest. We can build what's called, personality profiles and build some very cool information about who's playing or who's watching the game, and then provide that either to a game development team, or I can provide that to a producer, or I can provide that to an advertiser. So they kind of have the human sentiment in addition to what we call the factual data, like tables and schemas, if you will. And the cool part about cognitive, it can personalize that experience for your gameplay, or who you're watching, or who's actually watching the game. Next slide. So what we do is we kind of take that cognitive experience in our world. We create what's called a 360-degree view of either the player or the champion that may be on the stage. So we can do some real topic-based influencing, we can do some measurement, we can do some human analysis. Because again, the big part of folks that do know the world of esports is that, hey, it's a community-driven event, right? People come there for the stories, they come there for the drama, they want to understand what's going on, because it's a real live community, energetic event, big time. So all these things can be done to, in a sense, provide information to either a producer or a Twitch streamer or a Ustreamer or somebody that's engaged in providing the information during the large event. So again, going back to the premise, right? It's a lot more than just a game, because there's a lot of rich data that you can grab as part of the esports experience. Next slide, please. So here's what we do. We kind of take all of that information, and the executives say, just pretend I'm an executive at Riot Games, or I'm an executive Entertainment Arts EA. I'm like wondering, who's watching my game? Or why should I invest in such a game? Or are people not liking the game? So what we can do is create some very cool analysis based on the cognitive capturing of that data, and say, hey, this person may be watching this game, they may be a Dota 2 champion, they may be invited to watch this type of event, and we can collect all that data to present like either non-game day activities, game day activities, or either pre-game experiences, so that you can kind of identify or target who's going to show up for the game. So folks that may be very interested in like Wizards of the Coast. I'm a Magic the Gathering fan. I'm sure there's some out there that also play Magic the Gathering or play League of Legends. And so I want to understand, what's going on either in the game itself, game day, or do I want to create some experiences for post-game or pre-game to include in more and more into my community. Next slide. So let me just pause here a moment and kind of talk about what I mean when I say cognitive engagement or cognitive computing. So next slide, please. So here it is, very simple, not rocket science. It's software that learns and interacts and analyzes without explicit programming. The cool part is that you can take what we call structured data, which many developers have tables and facts and schemas, and then we can bring in that unstructured data, whether it's streams or sentiment or videos or facial recognition in videos, and combine that. Very powerful information. Next slide. So in the world of esports, here's a couple of the use cases that I'm working on across the world. So for example, in-game NPC. So I want to be able to play with others that are maybe AI players, so not a real person. Or it could be a combination of real people and a cognitive computer playing with me. Individualized gameplay, balance, and engagement. So think about this. A lot of new teams are entering the world of esports very rapidly. And if I'm a marketer, if I'm a producer of this event, I don't want to put a very, very good team with a very, very new team. That would not make for good entertainment. So what I probably want to do is I want to create some player telemetry or some player engagement across the landscape. Statistics for Shoutcasters. Right? So as I'm a shoutcaster, I'm announcing each event that goes on in the game. It's a very fast, lively type of communication, and it'd be good if I have that real-time analytics. Like, for example, what is Yellow Star doing as he's on the stage? What is Scarlet doing when she's on the stage? And I can do some personalized engagement as I'm talking to my fans. We also have community manager assist. So this is a problem in some game communities, is that sometimes the language could be a little toxic. It could be a little not healthy. So we can reduce some of that toxicity in the game. Personal training and a lot of automation and testing. So next slide, please. So here's a cool one. What I want to do is I'll make this available to those after this event that want to see this. So probably you've heard about this very large game put out by a company called PUBG last summer, Underground Battleground. So in this experience, you're playing with close to 80 to 90 to 100 different teams at one time. Quite staggering, right? So what we did was we went through and created a very simple cloud experience to capture the most important, or what we call salient, screen to watch at that time. So we can flag it to a producer, we can flag it to a streamer, and say, hey, you want to watch this game right now, your fans want to know about this game right now, and we can kind of do an automatic flag to point you to the coolest screen. And again, I'll make this available to folks that want to see this later on. Next slide. So other areas we do a lot with AR and VR and some mobile apps. In the interest of time, I'm going to skip this slide and go on to the next one. So here's a good example of taking some very cool, what I call, this is the technology GORP. So some people in the group that are developers understand this. Some are like, what is this? So what we do is we take a lot of the Watson, what we call APIs or conversation APIs, and bring that into the game experience real time. So just think about it. You're able to interact real time during the gameplay, or you can converse with Watson during the gameplay, or have insights come back during the gameplay real time. Next slide, please. So now let me shift channels just for a moment here and talk about blockchain a bit. So I'm assuming a lot of you have heard about blockchain and the different types of businesses and applications. So as we're looking at this, blockchain is a new way to exploit new value in the world of games. You can optimize or streamline business functions very similar that you can do in healthcare, that you can do in government, that you can do in retail. So next slide, please. So here's an example. We did this on a project with a large record label. And again, this can be done very similar to a game company as well. So think about it. One of the main premises of blockchain is to reduce that business latency that goes on in everyday business. So I want to be able to process bank records. I want to do auditor records. I want to stream. I want to have labels information and share that all on that blockchain so that everybody in that blockchain fabric has agreed to be part of the process, which would reduce all that time. So if we apply this to the game world, think about it. I'm a new publisher. Maybe I'm a new publisher, just came out on the market. Usually it'll take 120 days for some kind of payment to hit me. But in the world of blockchain, that can be done as little as 6 hours. So everything is transparent. Everything has been done to provide consensus and finality in the game world. So if you're a new publisher, if you're a new developer, blockchain is a very, very good application world to get you out there into the market much faster, get exposed faster, and do different types of businesses in the game world. So next slide, please. So here's a good example of, again, the technology GORP. So I apologize for those that are not developers. But in very simple terms, this is kind of showing us a very streamlined picture of how membership, consensus, and business ledger is all brought through very transparent in a very high security cloud environment. You can do mobile, wallet, web, other types of business applications so that you can expose that very easily to your consumers using the blockchain. And again, so think about it. I'm a new developer, and I'm going to be on the platform. My new game is going to be released. People are going to start playing it. They're going to start paying for it, and I can get paid for as little as 6 hours based on all the steps that went through that business fabric. Next step. Next slide, excuse me. So again, this is a little bit of the fine print of that same example. Is you can do royalty distribution, you can do content distribution, record artists. You know, there's been many chats. For example, I'm from Minneapolis, so big fan of Prince, and we were sad when Prince went away. But think about it. Prince always had these problems with the record labels, either not paying him correctly or paying him slowly. So if he was using blockchain, he'd be able to get paid much quicker because everybody would have visibility in the business steps that Prince was doing on some of his records. So next slide. And so in this world here, there's different opportunities that you can provide insights very easily to your consumers or your advertisers or your business using a lot of that social data. So in this example here, I'm just simply bringing in some audience data, I'm bringing in some content, some streams, some video, and I'll process that very easily. Maybe I'll do some facial recognition. Maybe I want to store the video for like Monday morning quarterbacking the next morning to take a look at that data, or I can push it out real time. Like I said, to either like a shoutcaster or a producer using some very simple insights platform. Next slide, please. And again, I'm going to share this video with you as well afterwards, so you can all have a chance to look at that. So this is a very cool one. In fact, do we have a way to click on this link as part of this presentation? Let's see if we can get it to. If not, I'll share it with the gang afterwards. So let's jump out of the slideshow just for a moment and go back three slides and pick up the link to see if we can click on it and connect to the internet. All right, let's exit the slideshow just for a second and see if we can grab that link and see if we can play it. Okay, no go? Okay. All right, I'll share that. So let's move along. Okay, next slide, sir. Okay, so here's another fun part. Many people don't recognize it, but 90% of developers are gamers in some fashion. So when I'm working, I understand that we've developed the cloud for guiding principles of gamers and developers at the same time. Because you look at that. Look, that's an amazing stat. 90% of developers are gamers in some fashion. So a lot of you would want to go out and create some very cool apps and devices using the cloud. Maybe you want to drop in a Unity SDK to create a game engine. Maybe you want to bring in some machine learning applications as you create the game. Maybe you want to move the game in different environments. So we built this platform very easily to allow you to try and engage and build very quickly and even fail quickly and go back and try something again. So next slide. Here's an example. This is a real-life game example from my friends at Fire Monkeys down in Australia. They're a large car racing game on EA. You may have played this in the past. So they said, hey, Bill, we're having a problem here. Our game is scaling too quickly. We need help. So what we did was we created a concept using containers. You may have heard the term Docker containers or Kubernetes containers. And what we're able to do is take that and scale it across kind of automagically, if you will, as a game scales and gets larger and larger. So a new game will take off. Maybe it's getting too popular too quickly, which is a good problem to have, right? And so they wanted to scale this out using some very simple technologies. You can scale up the services using containers, and we help them keep their game up and running without any interruption in the gameplay. Next slide, please. Again, here's some of the things that we can do also to assist you in the world of esports. We have very many videos and distribution systems. We have Ustream. The link I'm going to share with the gang afterwards is a new company called Maestro.io. You may have heard about that, an esports front end. So we can wrap all that using some very slick cognitive abilities as you're designing a game or designing the experience in the gameplay. Next slide. And of course, for those that want to develop and go big time, we have 60+ data centers around the world to allow you to scale your game and your esports environment very easily as you get bigger and bigger, up to 19 countries and 6 continents. Next slide. So that was my presentation. I hope you all enjoyed it and thought about some good ways that, hey, esports, again, is more than just a game. It's a serious business to play games. Thank you.